Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to this here respawn station. My name is Sri Kandula, and today I am joined by my co-host in crime, Nick Sivak, to talk about Gamescom Opening Night Live and maybe the few other stuff that happened at Gamescom after the Opening Night Live. But before that, we got a whole bunch of stuff to do. Now, obviously, I got to address the elephant in the room. Today's Thursday, and normally we go live on Friday. So last night we delayed the podcast. Oh, sorry. What did I say? I said something else.
Friday.
Yeah, I wish we did. No. All right. So Wednesday, normally we do episodes. I had a Childish Gambino concert, and so I was wearing Hawaiian shirts while you guys were waiting for the podcast. So I was wearing Hawaiian shirts and just, fucking screaming from the nosebleeds. That's what they say. I'm not gonna wear that the whole time because it is hot. But yeah, very excited. But I'm also excited, Nick, to talk about some of these games. That I will come out right ahead of it and say I actually don't have a lot of games to review or give opinions on. So I'm gonna ask you first, Nick. What are you playing?
Oh, excuse me. I was in the middle of a yawn there.
You got to make it loud. At least make it ASMR for the the audience. You got to
maybe the next one I'll do. I'm sure there'll be many during this. So, let's talk about Payday 3. I've been playing Payday 3, specifically DLC heists. Basically, this is a whole long story that I don't really need to get into.
I think you briefly told me, or I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, but
yeah, I sold a bunch of stuff on Steam, basically old CS:GO weapon skins and stuff that I didn't want, and so I got a little bit of money and decided to pick up some Payday 3 DLC because there was a new heist that was announced recently, and I casually follow the Payday community, so it's I know when there's new content and everything. And I was like, I haven't played Payday in a while, so I'll pick up some DLC and give it a try.
Yeah.
So basically, since launch, there's been 3 paid DLC heists and then a couple of free ones. I had already played 2 of the free ones because they were remasters of old Payday heists.
Oh.
And those came out a month or 2 after the game came out. So it was still while I was actively playing that game.
Sure.
But the 3 new ones that were paid, I picked up, and then there was also a new free one that came out recently with the 3rd paid heist. So,
Nick, you know what game also has free DLC? Crime Boss Rocket City. Go ahead.
That's good.
Yep.
I think these games live and die by having free DLC.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll just go in chronological order, I guess.
Yeah,
the first heist that they released was Syntax Error, which I should also say some of these heists, the ones that were already released, were on sale. So that's nice that I didn't have to pay full price, because when Syntax Error first came out, it was kind of a big drama because it was a little bit, pricey for one DLC heist, basically, and some cosmetics and weapons or whatever.
Sure.
But that not really playing into this. Syntax Error, it's a heist on an AI data center, basically, and you're stealing these servers. And what's kind of cool about it is it really gave me kind of Mission Impossible vibes, because you go down into this basement and there's these 4 sections of this data center that have servers, and you have to go up into this office, and if you're doing this in stealth...
Wait, is there parkour?
You have to...
The hell?
What?
Is there parkour in this? I see this dude running on a wall.
So one of the enemies basically can do that. You can't really
what
do that.
What scumbags?
But... yeah. So yeah, there's these different sections, and you can unlock one room at a time. And then whenever you steal these servers, the floor will turn red and everything. So there's some cool stylistic things in there. This one was probably like my least favorite though of
Okay.
all of the heists.
Okay.
It's just kind of like bare bones and kind of basic. Like it's an office building with server racks that you're stealing from. So it's not like super
Sure.
glitzy or anything like that.
You're
But
not
it's
getting
still like
spectacle from that?
yeah, like it's fun to like sneak around and everything, but yeah, it's just kind of like a basic kind of building, not really super interesting.
Fair.
What is really interesting, however, though, in my opinion, and
Boys
one of
in
my favorite
blue.
heists is Boys in Blue. Um, Basically, the setup for this one is one of your associates. There's like a crooked cop that raids, some clandestine business or whatever that he has and steals a bunch of gold. And basically, the police are holding it up in a evidence lockup that's in like this old kind of rundown police station.
Mm-hmm.
And you're tasked with getting the gold back. And what's awesome about this heist is that it's pretty drastically different depending on whether you do it loud or do it in stealth. In loud, you're basically there's like this tow truck and you're blasting a hole into the wall into the hallway where the vault is, and then you're like using a tow truck to rip the door like off the vault
Ah.
and steal everything.
So
But
this is
then if
more
you're in
Fast and Furious.
kind of if you're doing it in loud. If you're doing it in stealth, basically you will have to get into the police station. You have to like find like the captain's office. Basically the people in the police station. There's a biometric lock on this, evidence lockup that changes, uh, you know, who has access
Mhm.
basically. So you have to figure out by like searching through documents and hacking computers who has access, and then you have to go and like take
Ah.
fingerprints off their like mug and sneak down into the office. And then there's a hallway outside of the evidence lockup that has weighted pressure plates, so you can't
Damn.
take the loot out in the hallway and stuff. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that they did with that heist, and like it's just kind of like an interesting setting. This police station, it
Uh-huh.
visually looks more interesting than Syntax Error.
Hmm.
And yeah, the music in this one really kicks ass, both in stealth and in loud.
Oh yeah.
There's usually a different like type of track for each strategy that you're doing,
Right.
and the stealth version is like the coolest sounding, like just like bass, like like while you're like sneaking around. And then whenever you are going loud, it's like very brazen. Like they have like police sirens that are like mixed into the music and stuff. Like it's really cool.
Are you playing this
The
with a friend or just solo? I didn't know if you said that already.
So, you can play with multiple people or by yourself. I was playing mostly by myself, but I have gone back and I've played with randoms on some of these,
Okay.
which is
Does
it's
it
fun
feel any
in both of
different
its ways.
playing with playing by yourself versus like? I feel like that's the thing though, right? Like I feel like games like for example, we've talked about on the I've talked about on the podcast, Crime Boss Rocket City, and
Mhm.
it's like one of those things where it's supposedly better in co-op, but like playing solo, I'm like, I don't see it.
It's very different. So each version, right? If you're playing solo or with a group in Payday,
Mhm.
has its pros and cons. So if you're playing solo, you are more or less in control of your destiny. Like if you're, trying to do
Sure.
stealth, like if you mess up, yeah, you messed up, but you're not, triggering things out of your control, basically.
Right.
Whereas if you're playing with other people, if somebody's not as experienced in doing like stealth or doesn't know how to, move around guards in a specific way, that can cause issues. However, playing with more people means that you can accomplish certain objectives faster. So, like, say there's like a bank heist in the game where you have to activate a switcher box and it gives you like a colored switch that you have to hit.
Sure.
And then you have to find multiple boxes and hit different colors. If you're playing by yourself, you would have to hit the screen and then go find one of the boxes, flip the switch, go back, do it again. Whereas if you're playing with more people, one person can stay on the thing while another person goes and flicks switches.
Gotcha.
So like basically it really just kind of depends, like,
Sure. Yeah.
the experience can change depending on if you're playing solo or playing with others. I will say I was doing solo to start, so I could just like learn the heists a bit and then start, playing with other people whenever I
Right.
felt a little bit more comfortable, had like a lay of the land and everything.
Didn't want to let people down.
Right.
All right,
But
so
yeah,
chapter
Boys in
3.
Blue is really
Oh,
cool.
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, so next up, chapter 3, right? Your Houston Breakout.
Yeah, we can talk about that because Houston Breakout and the Free Heist were released on the same day. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll start with Houston Breakout though. This one is kind of an homage to a Payday 2 heist. Essentially, without getting like too into
The lore.
history and lore of Payday because it's surprisingly extensive. Um, in the very first game, you had a core group of 4 heisters. Basically, this guy named Dallas, Hoxton, Chains, and Wolf. And then in Payday 2, Hoxton was like
Oh my
missing.
god!
When the
How
game
new
came
is this
out.
DLC? I see that they just referenced that the recent like viral that do you remember that viral clip of the dude jumping over the judges thing? I just saw.
Yeah, this DLC came out within the last week. It's like
Oh
very
my
new.
god! 3 days ago. Wow. Okay, I see. Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, basically Hoxton was missing in Payday 2. Eventually we got a heist called Hoxton Breakout, and it was like, you're breaking out your crew member from police custody.
Interesting.
So Houston Breakout is kind of a homage to that, but it is like a different heist. Basically, again, not getting super into story, but the Payday gang was targeted by a elusive person out for revenge, and this person is like basically rigging this, court hearing against Houston. And so the heist takes place in a fancy courthouse, and kind of like Boys in Blue, you're doing very different things if you're doing it in stealth versus doing it loud. You'll like escort him out after like busting through like a containment cell to get him to a helicopter, and then you can either steal a bunch of evidence pertaining to the case or like destroy it if you're playing in loud.
I see.
If you're playing in stealth, you have to like get him transferred to like another area by like blackmailing the judge and stuff. So there's variance in either way you play, which is pretty standard for Payday heists. But this one's also good. It's not as good as Boys in Blue in my opinion. I really like the level that it plays in, the courthouse. It looks very cool and very different from any of the other heists in the game. But sort of like syntax error, the objectives are like kind of stuff we've done before. So like it's not like really reinventing anything or like introducing that many new mechanics to the fold.
Sure.
But it's still a fun one. And then the free heist is one called Diamond District, which is a lot of fun also. This is probably like my second favorite one next to Boys in Blue. It's basically like a smash and grab style heist, but you are tasked with taking on 5 different stores at once, basically. And they're like, interconnected by different back alleys and offices and stuff like that. And, you can unscrew vents and get from one store to the other. You have to like cross the street at one point. So that one's also a lot of fun. It's really hectic. Like they have like seemingly a lot more cop spawns. So like you're constantly like under pressure if you're playing in loud. And then if you're playing in stealth, it's, 5 different places to try to manage at once and try to like sneak around and not get caught. So that one's also like a lot of fun. So yeah, basically, just getting back into Payday 3 again and having a lot of fun with it. Again, we mentioned it on the best 7 out of 10s. Like it's not like, the best game in the world, but I have a lot of fun with Payday. And yeah, the DLC has definitely been a lot of fun so far.
Well, shit. I mean, so right now, with your time in, what is the ranking of these games in the order of like best Payday 3 DLC to worst? I'm gonna guess that it's Boys in Blue, Houston or Hudson Breakout, Houston Breakout, the first chapter, and then the free DLC, or they're maybe tied. Maybe they switch those last 2.
I would do Boys in Blue is definitely the best, then the free one, and then Houston, and then the first one.
Okay. Well, there it is. Nick's definitive
I just
ranking.
think the free one, like, it's like a noticeable like bump up as far as like, action in the
Sure.
moment to moment stuff. So that one's one that I see myself that I'm going to be playing a lot more, just because there's
Makes sense. Yeah.
there's some elements to it that like harken back to more design principles that were in play with Payday 2. And so I like that, where it's like there's a little bit more randomization in the objectives. There's a little bit more player agency on like when you choose to leave, or if you want to stick it out and try to hit all 5 stores and stuff. So that one I think just is like a little bit more interesting than the kind of standardish Houston
Sure.
Breakout.
That's fair.
But it's a lot of fun, and there's one more at least confirmed paid DLC that's coming out, which is seemingly going to be on like the New York Stock Exchange, which will be interesting to see how they handle that.
I imagine it's got to be like that scene from The Dark Knight Rises.
Maybe, yeah.
It is weird.
They're very inspired by movies, so I would not be surprised.
I know it's not like, obviously I think like for something like Payday, I imagine like Heat is a big inspiration.
Absolutely.
But it's all like the masks. Every time I see the mask, I'm like, the Dark Knight. That's the Dark Knight.
There's so many. Payday 2 had actual movie crossover heists and stuff. Like, I'm not sure how familiar you are with that game,
I didn't really.
But they did a crossover for the Point Break remake.
Only cinema then is what they collabed with.
Right. There's a Scarface heist where you can like, you're literally sneaking into the manor, the mansion and everything. There's a Reservoir Dogs heist that plays in reverse, and you get to play the actual store robbery, which is cool.
It's kind of like how Hitman adds people for the assassinations, but it's like, not a real person being like, yeah, kill me in the game. Because that's
John Wick is in Payday. You could play as John Wick in Payday 2.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Wow. Well,
and actually, what's funny, one real quick thing, they had like a secondary currency that you could unlock in Payday 2 that were the Continental coins. You could earn those on heists and do different things.
I actually think I should. I'm not gonna dig through. Somewhere on my desk, I think I do have some Continental coins laying around. But yeah. I'll be sure to save them for Payday 2. Now, oh shit, just move my mic. I've been sort of juggling a few games, so I'll run through what's on my docket, because at the same time I feel like I'm playing not a lot of games, but I think that's more so like I'm not invested in a lot of games. But let me explain. So last week I'd said that Kena Bridge of Spirits was officially out on Xbox, and since then I've been playing it for the last, I've only been playing it for the last like 4 days or so. So I have probably like 2 hours or so into Kena Bridge of Spirits. Not enough to really speak to, kind of like really share my thoughts on it. I'll just tell you guys what I think about it when I finish the game. But that being said, this thing looks like a Pixar movie. I don't know how I didn't play this before. Then I started playing a few weeks ago, and it was a super popular video over on our YouTube channel where I had said that Warhammer 40k Dark Tide makes a solid first impression, and I stick by that. It still does make. I mean, it's hard to like go back on a first impression, being like, it actually doesn't make a good first impression. It makes a good first impression.
I actually didn't like it whenever I was playing it.
But the thing that kind of the reason why I didn't kind of go back to that game and talk about it once I finished it is because after like 6 hours or so, we discovered, and we were playing this in co-op, we discovered that there's actually not a story, like linear story, kind of connecting the whole game together. And instead, you get this idea that essentially, well, I'll say this. So the whole concept of Dark Tide, I was almost said Space Marine. The whole concept of Dark Tide is that you're a criminal who, at the start of the game, through a series of events that you can experience for yourself if you have Xbox Game Pass, for example. You end up kind of on this ship called the Morning Star, and you are kind of doing missions for the Inquisition on this hive world. So you essentially go down. Every mission is you going down onto the planet to some remote part of it, doing whatever task you need to, and then going back up and reaping your rewards. So we're like, oh, there's nothing here. It's just, you engage with that gameplay loop, and again, that gameplay loop is solid because the game looks fucking sick. It plays relatively smooth. I mean, there's some occasional hiccups here and there, or performance issues, but for the most part, it's fine. And on top of that, kick-ass soundtrack by Jesper Kyd, who some people might recognize as the person who composed the Assassin's Creed 2 soundtrack, among other things. And so all that said, I was like, oh, okay, there's not enough here to bring me back. Turns out there is, because there's actually, essentially the game has these really short, like 30-second cutscenes as you level up, and the game ends, or you hit the resolution of the kind of the narrative when you hit level 30. So it's just literally getting to level 30, and then you kind of see reap the reward, or reap the story rewards. I am level 15. It's a long way to go still, so I'm kind of casually just going in and hopping in, and no one else is joining me. So like Alexa and Austin have been abandoned the game, so I've really just been playing it kind of either. Well, actually, I say by myself, but so the best way to play the game is to queue up for quick play, which just means that you'll queue up with random people, similar, I'm guessing, how you're doing with Payday. And so
it sounds like they're very similar type of game.
Exactly. And so I've actually grouped up with some people and it is interesting. It adds like this. It's actually better, I think, solo and playing with randoms, because it adds to the narrative of it, of like, you're just a bunch of people that are like trying to make a name for themselves on this ship, and try to be on the Inquisition's good side. So anyway, dark side, not super invested, but I am like playing it just to get to level 30, and see how it ends, because I've heard there's something there. After that, I beat my very first VR game, Nick. I have rolled credits on Blood and Truth, and I will stick with everything I said in my previous video. I said kind of first impressions, but I was like 4 missions away from beating the game. So I'll stick with everything I said in that review. It is awesome. It's the best most cinematic VR experience I've ever had. The kind of the gameplay variety it throws in is really just kind of engaging, and it makes for some kind of natural VR character moments that you wouldn't have gotten in non-VR. That being said, there's one thing I need to add, which is that the game has, dare I say, a game-breaking bug at the last 5 minutes of the game. And
that's not good.
This is, I'm not even joking, the last 5 minutes of the game. Okay, Nick, I want you to, you don't have to close your eyes, but just pretend that you have a VR headset on your head, okay? This sequence, essentially, yeah, perfect. So the sequence has you, in a car. It's a long car chase, but then you blast your way onto a pavement. The fucking plane's taking off, and you have to get on the plane because, yes, exactly, the guy is on the plane that you're trying to stop, and he did something bad to you, so you got to stop him. And so, obviously, the logical thing to do, as any sensible player who plays Call of Duty, you have to get on the plane. And so you're like, okay, your sister is driving the car. And you're like, get me close to the wheel. And so you go to the back wheel of this airplane, and you jump up onto the little kind of wheel. Yeah, and then there's a ladder, and at the top of the ladder there's a little button that you have to press to get on. Nick, how do you do this? Do you slowly take your time? You're running in, blind. Like what's your headspace right now?
I am going to charge forward and probably
You're
miss
fucking
the jump
wrong.
onto the wheel.
You're fucking wrong. I spent 20 to 25 minutes replaying this section, being like, I'm a crazy person. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I thought it like every time I'd get to the top of the ladder, I'd just be waiting. The button wasn't pressable. And to the game's quote unquote credit, it essentially like time, like it has a little brief loading section after before you actually get to press the button. But I wasn't even making it to the loading section. And so after like, 15 minutes, I was like, I'm going to go crazy. I pulled up some walkthroughs on YouTube. I'm like, how the fuck are these people doing it? They're just doing it, dude. They're just getting up the ladder, and they're fucking, there's a little blink, and then they press the button and they're in. So I found answers. The one place anyone finds answers in the modern era on the Reddit comments from like 5 years ago. And essentially, I was going too fast. In order for me to beat that like section, it's a common bug. But if you don't know how to fix it, you can't fucking continue. It just you keep falling out of the plane and dying. So you have to slowly, and I mean literally slowly, crawl one ladder thing at a time until it's like accepts that you've made it. And then you can progress. You'll blink, and then you press the button. That part was the only extremely frustrating part about it. I still love the whole experience, but it like definitely kind of the impact of that ending really kind of got muddled. And also like right after that,
right?
It's such a cool like kind of weird, crazy experience. And you kind of like, I'm still like, what the fuck just happened? So, recovering mentally.
Honestly, that can really like make or break your thoughts on a game. Like even to this day, like I went through it one time where I was like, I want to get Mile High Club on Veteran on COD 4.
Yep.
And ever since then, like I was like, I've never wanted to do that again. Like I'll play it casually or play it on an easier difficulty, but it's like I never want to go through that again. And that is just a thought that always comes into my head when I think of COD 4. It's like it's an amazing game. I love it so much, but like man, that one section at the very end sucks. No, if you're trying to do that.
100%. I agree because I have both Resident Evil 5, which I hold a personal grudge against because it didn't give me a trophy that I rightfully deserved for playing co-op on hardest difficulty. And then the other one is actually Titanfall 2 because I beat the game and it was like for like 2 days after that I was just like, give me the gauntlet, please. I just want to get the trophy and uninstall. So yeah, definitely it can leave a sour taste in the mouth. But luckily, I think I'm able to confidently say, just like with Titanfall 2, great game, despite the gauntlet being frustrating here. Actually, I can't even give the game the credit with, the gauntlet's supposed to be hard. The end of the game, climbing that ladder wasn't supposed to be a challenge. So, docked a little bit, but still, overall, solid. I would still recommend Blood and Truth. And, okay. So, the first episode of Retrograde is out. Thank you for everybody who watched. We appreciate it. We've actually gained subscribers from that too. So clearly, you guys want to see more, and you'll be happy to know, you sick, twisted voters out there. Our next episode is all about Dragon Age Origins. You guys voted. We didn't even it was between podcast episodes that we ran the poll over on the website. So anyone who kind of has on over to respawnstation.com just to peruse had the chance to vote, and the winner was Dragon Age Origins. And I have started. I'm about 3.5 hours into Dragon Age Origins. So again, it's similar to how we did with Space Marine. This time, we're at least giving you the name. We're not going to talk opinions about it because that's the whole point of Retrograde. You got to tune into that show to hear what we think about it. But I mean, it's a long road ahead. It's a long game. So we'll. I'm sure it's kind of a game that I'm going to be just kind of chipping away at over the next few weeks here. So you'll probably be.
You're a couple hours in, and I moved the game next to my controller. That's about where I'm at.
It's progress. It's progress. That's one step at a time. And then next, you're going to plug in the 360. That's
already plugged in.
Oh, okay,
when I was playing Call of Duty. That's still.
Oh,
that's
you're
still
playing Call of
up.
Duty on the 360. Ah.
Call of Duty 3, yeah, and
sure,
Black Ops 2. I played on 360.
Dang. Yeah, I have all those on my PS3, so I was like, it must be where you're playing it too, because that's where I have. Makes sense. That makes sense. Are you playing anything else? Or is there anything else you got on your? Oh,
Um,
actually,
I have,
yeah, there is the evil in the room that we could address. How far are
yeah.
you into the evil within?
I am part of the way. I think either halfway or a little bit past halfway on chapter 10.
Chapter
So
10. Okay.
that is well, I played the mansion mission. I think that was the one before the one that I'm on.
Yeah, chapter
If
10 is the craftsman's tools.
Yeah, like it's, there's a giant spinning blade in one room I remember,
Yeah.
and you're like picking up batteries and stuff like that. I'm still having a lot of fun with Evil Within.
Still on survival difficulty?
Yep, still playing on there. Still having a blast. I do think your statement about it playing best on that difficulty. I mean, again, some people love playing survival horror on the hardest difficulties and stuff, but I think it's a nice balance between,
It
not like
feels
crushing
right.
you, but you have like, enough stuff that like you kind of are always feeling like
You get a little stomped.
you're
Yeah.
on the ropes.
And
Yeah.
I really it is. And so here's the thing: we have one chapter left, and we're gonna hopefully finish it tomorrow. And so the plan is, because we switched to the regular difficulty, we're gonna go back to the survival difficulty for the last mission, see how we fare. But yeah, it's. I mean, obviously you're playing through in survival, so like you wouldn't experience it unless maybe you remembered how you felt on your first playthrough, because I remember you said that was regular difficulty or normal difficulty the first time you played it.
This is the first time I am playing it. I haven't
Well, I
played
meant
it
like the
before.
first three because you said you played the first 3 chapters on normal initially, and then you restarted for the current playthrough. Is that how
My friend played it on my account, if that's what you're asking.
I see.
Yeah, I
Okay,
haven't.
okay. So
Whatever this version was.
well, okay, so
is
you
what
wouldn't
I've
have
been playing.
experienced it then at all, but it would be interesting if you go back after you beat the game to just experience it on normal, because man, it kind of feel, and it's, I wouldn't say, like, it's definitely me saying it is a little bit of an exaggeration, but it kind of feels like switching from survival to normal is like Resident Evil 4 to Resident Evil 5, where it's like it's cramped, and it's still like the same kind of thing, but like the play style is totally different, because it's just ammo is more abundant, you're being a little bit more aggressive with your actions, and yeah, it's still intense though. Even in normal, it has moments, but survival is just like it sustains that intensity for a long time. It is funny because there's one, at the start of the game, occasionally, we don't do this often, but occasionally we'll put up like clips from our our videos on TikTok or something. And one of the clips there at the very start of the game, right when you wake up from, like, you get knocked out at the start of the game, you wake up and there's like a butcher's place, and you have to go get a key from like right next to him. I don't know if you saw this clip, Nick. So essentially, I go up and I hit X before I meant to, and so while he's still chopping, I pick the key from his side and walk away, and I get away with it. And so someone in the comments like replied like, "What the? How's that possible?" And I was like, "The best part is that's on survival." And yeah, it's a nice experience. I'll be sure to share that clip around. But anyway, Evil Within. Anything else you're playing?
One tiny thing that I'll touch on. I guess we'll maybe get into this. I did boot up Starfield and played with the new
Oh, sure, yeah.
land vehicle that they added, only very briefly, just to see how it controlled, and it felt pretty good. I was surprised. I was like, this is the first time that there's a drivable land vehicle in a Bethesda game, at least officially.
Yeah, how does it
Like,
feel?
you can get them in mods or whatever. It feels good. I mean, it feels like it controls kind of like a Halo Warthog, where like you drive with the sticks and everything.
Oh,
And then
I see.
with the trigger, you use like the mounted little gun thing, and then there's also boosters and thrusters. So those kind of control like they do in when you're just using like a jump pack. Like if you hold Y, you'll launch up. If you hold B, you'll boost forward. But yeah, the wheels, like the way that it's constructed, basically, it is constructed like an actual, like, I don't I guess I would equate it to almost like a monster truck, but it's not a monster truck in size. Like it just has like a bunch of give for the
Mm,
suspension. So like
right.
whenever
So
you're
you
going
got
over
a
the
little bit of
rocky
that
terrain,
bounce.
yeah, there's a little bit of bounce, and like the wheels, basically what I'm getting at is that they don't there's not a whole lot of like clipping or like weird jank that I experienced.
Oh,
And
okay.
then again, I've only done it on one planet for like 15 minutes. So like I
Sure.
haven't played it
Yeah.
extensively, but like, it looks pretty natural as far as
That's good.
what I
Honestly,
saw.
that I think that was I don't know if this is what was kind of scaring Bethesda away initially, but I do think that Bethesda games can have that. Like that was my biggest fear when they were adding driving to it. I was like, it's got to be some jank because that's kind of their thing. And they've even I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, that they've said that themselves.
Mhm.
Also, hello loading. Well, welcome. And
Hello.
so yeah, I that was my biggest worry. But I'm glad that it's not like that, and it is it feels smooth. Shattered Space is next month, right? So you're
Yep.
are you
At the end
preparing
of the
for it?
month.
Are you launching into it like Elden Ring DLC, or are you just kind of like just testing the waters and you're gonna go back when it comes out?
I play enough 76 where like I'm pretty comfortable with how Bethesda's engine works, and their games are not as difficult as Elden Ring to where I would need
Sure.
to,
You don't need the prep.
reacclimate myself. No, I'm just gonna hop in whenever that
Nice.
comes out.
Now, I
I
actually don't know much about this DLC. Is it like where does it take place in this in the story? Is it like before you beat the
Shattered
game?
Space?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to take place during the story. Most
So you got to load a save before you beat it, like before you get the ending, or is it like because I guess we can kind of hint at it now that the game's been out for a bit, but like
mhm.
there is one of the more popular endings is like the cyclical nature. You got to kind of get to start over. Is it there that you pick up this DLC?
So it would be post that.
Okay,
Um
okay,
you could do it like that or during the actual story, like if you have a save. Like that's what I'm
yeah,
gonna be doing. Like I didn't go through the thing that we're talking around
yeah,
on
yeah.
my good save. So you can do it in either or. There's not a whole lot of info out about the DLC, but it is around House Faroon, and you're going to their home world, which was not accessible in the base
Mm,
game. Um, it's going to start off in like a space station, and then somehow, again, not sure yet how, but somehow you will be taken to their home world where only the House Faroon faction is supposed to, exist.
huh.
And interestingly, because this is like kind of like a complaint that Starfield got,
Hmm.
with traveling around to multiple planets and stuff.
Yeah.
The entire DLC is taking place on this planet outside of the space station.
Oh, okay.
So some people like in the community are thinking like this might feel closer to like a more classic Bethesda kind
Sure.
of experience because there's probably going to
A,
be multiple points of interest
a bit
that you
more
will likely.
crafted than like a an
Yes.
open kind of not generated, but open
No, I
landscape.
think that's fair. I
Yeah.
mean, that procedural generation was a big part of Starfield. So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's going to be a little bit more handcrafted, and they've even shown in the little teasers the new vehicle. So I'm sure, traversing between points of interest on there will probably be a part of that as well.
I this is just something that's been on my mind recently. Occasionally, over the last I think a week and a half, 2 weeks, I randomly think about moments from playing Starfield. I'm like, man, that was a good game.
Hmm.
I had a good time with that game, and it's one of those things. And I think I get this with a few big games where it's like, oh, and it's just sort of what I talked about in playing Space Marine, but it's like, oh,
Hmm.
like that experience was so good, but I don't want to do it again because I don't want to if I'm not gonna experience that same thing again, like how will I, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna play it again. I was debating, I was throwing it around. It's definitely not gonna happen now that I'm playing Dragon Age Origins, um, but yeah, it's like one of those games. Like I'll remember moments of I remember I went here and I did this, and it's like that
Hmm.
moment is like, oh, that was fun. That was
I,
like
I
a
was
cool.
kind of doing the same thing with Starfield where I was like, I'd like to play it some more, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to restart that game either. I'm usually like a one and done because I'll do like everything in a Bethesda game, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good for a while.
See, I don't do that. We've talked about this a lot because I had finished the game first because I'd finished the campaign or the narrative, I should say, and then you kept going until you got everything before you kind of roll credits. But the thing with me is, like, I like to go for the story, and like I think about like how my character is approaching it, and I think you also do that as well. But and I tend to like end where it like cinematically, where I'm like, this feels like the natural drop off point for this story. But
I was gonna say you have a more natural view of that, whereas me, like, I'll do that in moments, and then I'll be like, okay, now I need to go off on a 30-hour tangent because there's a achievement that I need to get that requires me to do this stuff. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I feel like if you were to go through it again, especially a game like Starfield, it's like, oh yeah, I would want to. I would definitely not want to experience the same thing again. It's the same thing with Cyberpunk. I don't want to go and like relive the same story beats that I've experienced. I feel like that's the magic of it. But also, and I'm notoriously like I'm notorious for doing this in Bethesda games. I always start a Bethesda game again thinking I'll do it differently this time, and then I'll end up being in the same exact stereotype character. Right. Even in this, dude, even in Dragon Age Origins, I'm building my character. I'm like, what do I be? I wonder. And then, I am who you think I'm gonna be. Though I will say, no, actually, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it because we're not gonna talk about Dragon Age Origins. Starfield. All right, there's some Starfield talk. Now, anything else, Nick? Before we get into the hot topics today. Because there's a few.
Nope, that's all I've been playing.
Actually, you know what? Here, I'll say this before. I can always find things to talk about, Nick. While I have not been playing a whole lot, I have been watching games a whole lot. So, this past week, though, this weekend was the Call of Duty like esports World Cup, and like I said, I've been playing a little bit of Modern Warfare 3, but not a lot. I said my opinions on it, and a lot of people have listened to me say my opinion on it. I'll digress there, but I was curious because I still like FaZe, Optic, LA Thieves or 100 Thieves. I'm aware of some of these teams that I kind of either grew up watching or people I grew up watching that end up making it. And it's so much fun. I don't watch sports like at all. It's just like so boring to me. I don't know why. It's just sports are so boring to me. But I'll watch these fucking dudes go, just toe to toe on these like Call of Duty matches and be like, oh shit, it's so close. Crazy final fucking game there between it was FaZe and LA as 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves winning would have been fucking wild because FaZe is, they had this pedigree. Fucking crazy match. But, the even crazier, this whole World Cup has, if you're listening to this, watching this, go watch the Esports World Cup, like, explanation of how their keys work. Because their trophies is like, so from very layman's terms, like every player, when you get invited into the tournament, you get this little triangle, like gold triangle piece. And I'd imagine it, I'd liken it to like a fucking Pokemon, like, badge, but it's like bigger than that. And when, like when you win at the end, you can actually pick an opponent's key and they have to give you their key that will then get broken down and be a part of the base of your trophy. So, like, you can, if there's, like, a rival, you're like, oh, fuck that guy. You can be like, yeah, give me that key, and then it could be forever memorialized, I guess, in your, yeah, it's pretty fucking sick. Just watch it.
That's awesome.
And I don't even play Valorant, but just because I guess I was watching this, they gave me some recommendations. I'm watching Valorant, I think it's a World Cup or whatever, but, or no, it's Valorant Champions Tour, I think, or Championship Tour. That's also surprisingly fucking engaging to watch because it's like I'm very simple. Again, I don't really know anything about the Valorant space, so I was just like, I tuned in and I was like, oh, America's playing. I'll root for them. And then I watch, and it was America versus China in this one particular match I was watching, and I watch America I say the entire country. It was like this fucking comeback that it was like they were down like 7 and then they come back from that, and it was
Mm-hmm.
Go watch some esports, people. I feel like esports needs the money. It's interesting to kind of Nick, I mean, you and I, it'd be interesting if we can get our friend who is in esports to maybe come onto the show, but I think we've got to support esports.
I wanted to ask you, Sri, because I don't watch a whole lot of esports. Like I'll dabble here and there.
Yeah.
But in something like Call of Duty esports, do they ever go for like theatrical like trick shots or anything, or is it a lot more like it's about the tension and like knowing the spots where people are going to be at any given time? Because like I think of something like we were talking about Evo a couple weeks ago, where it's like it's a bit of both of that. It's like, yes, it is about the tension of like, frame data and like the health bars and stuff, but also it looks like super crazy when like, certain things happen in games. So it's like, I wondered, like, did these players ever just like, I'm going to try to do like a 360 and just like completely dunk on this team? Or is it like too risky for these teams to do that?
So so they switch between a few different game modes, right? So like, there's search and destroy, but then they also do hard point where there's like a limit on lives and stuff. And they don't go for trick shots. Now that like I'm trying to think back, but there's definitely like oh shit, they're showing off. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's not quite as like showmanship as because in like Evo, you really get to like, especially I forget the guy's name, but dude, he was like a fucking like, I mean, he was made for the stage. I forget what his name is, but it's not quite like that. And I think it's part of it is that because it's like a team, whereas it's like Evo is like kind of a 1v1, you can kind of get a little bit more of that because this is like a team. You kind of have to rein it in, and but still, like there's some moments I was like, oh fuck, that's pretty fucking crazy, and like. Occasionally, I'd have like a few like watch parties open, like with Nade Shot or Scump or someone, and I'll like switch back. I'll like just click into their like reaction, and they're either like fucking like stunned, like just like, oh my god, what the fuck is happening, or like they're going hype. So it's fun.
Because I imagine there's like things that happen that also happens in natural gameplay where like somebody like flanks and is completely behind an entire team and like it's like a quad or whatever. So like I imagine stuff like that happens. Definitely makes it exciting as well.
I mean, there was one where it was like, again, Valorant. I basically have watching champions have now like I understand how Valorant works. I didn't really know like what the gameplay of I mean, I knew it was a first-person shooter, but I didn't know the whole objective of it. But now that I understand the basics of Valorant, I'm watching this fucking this guy. His team unfortunately ended up losing, but he did it was a 1v4 and an incredible 1v4 of like this comeback. And so just like seeing people that are so good at the game also playing against people that are so good at the game and somehow still being good. I mean, it's like one of those. It really is like the people that are like, at the top of their game doing their thing. There's definitely times I'm like, I could take them on, but I feel like that's just my hubris.
Yo, 1v1 me, bro.
1v1. I mean, maybe like a 5v1. If I could bring some people to back me up, I'd be confident. I feel like I'd get shit on just any 1v1. I feel like the pressure is too much. But
I'm gonna 1v1 the Valorant champ.
Having never played Valorant. I do want to play Valorant just because it's on console now. It's just to see.
There's a YouTube video for you. I've 1v1 the champ.
Oh man, that'll be a short video. Well, with that said, I don't think. Oh, I had another tangent, but it's all right. We don't have to go on tangents. Now, it's time for the inbox. As always, I have to tell you guys, it was very hard for me to sift through the mail this week, being Gamescom week, and find just 5 games that I thought would deserve the shout out. There's a lot of good games that we're going to continue to talk about after, obviously, in the main show, but these are just the quick highlights. So, Nick, 1 through 5, buddy, pick a number.
2.
Alrighty. Of course you'd pick this game. So, the first game that we're going to be...
I can't see the games, by the way, in
No.
case anybody's curious.
So, the first game is Fast Penguin, the free-to-play chaotic multiplayer racing game developed by Historia Inc. Slides onto PS5, Xbox Series XS, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam and Epic Game Store in September this year. This was revealed during the Future Game Show at Gamescom, and essentially in Fast Penguin, by the way, it's 3 A's in the middle, that's why I'm saying it like that. You compete in Battle Royale race against 50 flightless feathered birds and a downhill belly slide to the finish line. Face off against up to 4 players in local and online multiplayer, knock rivals off course, glide over a speed boost, snag power-ups, and bounce through risky shortcuts in the sky to earn a spot on the cruise ship to the next round. Again, September 2024.
That was a good choice for the first one. That actually does look pretty good.
That was a good choice. And you know what? Free to play, I always say, if it's free, why not give it a go? It's nothing, no harm, no foul. Just give it a...
Kind of reminds me of, with the downhill nature of like an SSX, where it's
sure.
Not necessarily a racing game, but downward momentum.
See, how I thought about it was Mario Kart, but downwards. Just only down.
Mm-hmm.
But, let's... actually, you know what, Nick? Since we did it first, all right. Pick 1 through 5 without 2, obviously.
5.
Dang it, Nick. This was the one I wanted to save for last. No, I'm just kidding.
Then 4.
No. It works. Honestly, all these games look super cool, so I can't really say one's amazing over the others. But this one, Nick, you might like. It is called Beyond Galaxyland. This is from United Label CI Games' home for highly ambitious, lovingly crafted video games. And they have announced during, again, the Future Games show at Gamescom, a 2.5D adventure RPG called Beyond Galaxyland. It's launching on September 24th for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, Nintendo Switch, and PC. And obviously, as you can see, the game looks really cool. It's set among the stars and follows Doug, a high school student who's whisked away to Galaxyland, a seemingly idyllic zoo-like collection of planets, moments before the destruction of planet Earth by a celestial destroyer of worlds known only as the End. As Doug embarks on an interplanetary quest, pinballing around a cluster of diverse planets and biomes, including neon-lit cities, a cybernetic casino, and a desert set within the dead husks of starships, he's joined by a ragtag medley of champions in an effort to discover the truth behind Galaxyland and somehow undo the apocalypse on Earth. So, yeah, it's a turn-based combat game, but that being said, as you guys could see, it's a good-looking one. I always appreciate a good game that has it's cinematic while being stylized, because I think a lot of people assume that cinematic is just you have to have the AAA budget or quadruple A if you're Ubisoft, but no, sometimes you can get away with pixel art, but as long as it's very purposely crafted, just like this. So Beyond Galaxyland. Check that out.
That was a lot of words that pique my interest there. So,
Nick, 1, 3, or 4?
3.
All right, Nick, it's gonna get a little spooky there, buddy. You better get ready. This is called? Oh, okay, I'm pulling it up. Okay. This is called Hollow Body. So this is a tech noir survival horror game that's coming to PC next month. From Headwear Games comes the highly anticipated tech noir survival horror game Hollow Body. In this game, so first of all, it's set in the near future amongst a urban decay of long abandoned British city. Hollow Body is a dystopian love letter to survival horror. Its grimy, detailed environments exude an oppressive, cloying atmosphere, while its tight, tense gameplay effortlessly evokes classics of the genre, a mysterious and disturbing tech-noir narrative that contemplates the experience across the game's 4 to 5 hour playtime. One thing I will say, I appreciate them being very upfront about, is the 4 to 5 hour playtime. I think that is a nice sweet spot, too, for a game very particularly like this, where, again, it's horror, but it also has like some of these weird Blade Runner vibes, too. I think that's kind of where it gets the tech-noir horror from. But, in this game, you play as Micah, an unlicensed black market shipper who will stop at nothing to find her missing partner. So check it out. Again, it's Hollow Body. It's coming to PC via Steam and GOG on September 12th. And
these are some good-looking games for the inbox.
Dude, I told you I got a good one lined up. Now you have the choice, Nick, the final choice.
Number one.
All right, number one. This is honestly, after Hollow Body, I think we needed a little bit of a chill. We needed a little break. So, how about going for a little drive? This is Drive Rally or hashtag Drive Rally. It's always got a hashtag in front of it. But so during the Awesome Indies showcase, Pixel Perfect Dude announced that their game Drive Rally is going to early access on September 25th. Now, Drive Rally is an arcade rally racing game inspired by the racing scene, pop culture, and classic video games from the iconic late 80s and 90s. Future racers will be available to jump into this mud-slugging, high-octane experience on PC, Mac, and Linux with Steam, including Steam Deck, as well as Epic Game Store and GOG. And again, it's going into early access for about $20, and with that, you get never-before-seen tracks, you get iconic rally cars, and the charm of the game's passionate co-drivers. I'm just telling you what they have. But for the early access specifically, you're getting 4 unique locations, each with up to 24 stages, championship mode featuring a selection of 4 fully voice-acted co-drivers, a selection of 12 cars plus 3 different classes per car, amounting to 36 unique variations, plus fixes, quality of life improvements that obviously come from just being a game being in early access. It really is just a chill game, and I think that the thing that really caught my eye about it is the art style. Like it's a racing game, but it has like this cool. I hate to say cel shaded. Would you say that's cel shaded? It's sort of.
It's not cel shaded, but it has like an animated, like, almost painted look kind of.
Yeah, but that is really what kind of caught my eye to it. And it's also from a micro indie team with a core crew of about 5 people, which is always really impressive.
Rock on.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I've been loving seeing the expansion in the indie racing scene the last couple of years. It feels like for a while there, the racing stuff was really only like AAA outside of like, stuff that was like hyper focused on like, realism and stuff like that. But yeah, stuff like this looks really cool.
Well, that brings us to the last game in the inbox for the night. And that is honestly, I don't know. I will say that I was quite excited to talk about, the Hollow Body, because obviously I'm a horror person, and Beyond Galaxyland was what I was going to say for last. But honestly, Nick, I think you picked a good one for last. This is Bloomtown. It's an indie JRPG from the developers of Graveyard Keeper. This one was also, would you believe it, announced during the Future Games Showcase at Gamescom. It's from publisher Twin Sales Interactive, and the developer is Lazy Bear Games. They've also worked on Punch Club, by the way, for those of you wondering. And so this game, Bloomtown, is a quiet and cozy cozy American suburb, but this is only a facade. A demon world is growing beneath the surface. Children are disappearing, and it's up to you to save the town. Play as Emily and her younger brother Chester on summer vacation. Playing as Emily. You'll tame monsters from the underside and create your own demon hunting squad with unique team synergies. Again, it's a JRPG. It's kind of inspired by games like Persona and Earthbound, that according to them. So it has obviously turn-based combat, but looks, again, really awesome. I've heard really good things about Graveyard Keeper as well. So it's cool that that I'm interested in this game, and I can dive into it as it comes out on September 24th for PC and consoles. Also, I want to say that I just caught it. It actually says it's developed by both Lazy Bear Games, who again Graveyard Keeper and Punch Club, and Different Sense Games. So want to make sure that I'm giving credit to both of them. So check that out. Again, it's called Bloomtown: A Different Story, and it launches on September 24th for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam. And with that, the inbox comes to a close. And we can talk about...
That was a good round of games there. A lot of good-looking stuff.
I had to cut some good stuff, man. You'd be surprised. And it was actually a conscious thing, because obviously we had the a version of inbox in the first few episodes, and we kind of took it away. And then when we came back, I think we were some of the inboxes were like 15, 20 minutes. I was like, all right, we got to go bring it down. So I limited myself to just 5 topics or 5 stories. And I think we're moving a little bit faster, but yeah, I gotta always rein it back. Now, Nick, I think we kind of can just kind of jump into the main topic, because it has a lot to do with the news. Because earlier this week was Gamescom. Currently it's Gamescom, but earlier this week was Gamescom Opening Night Live. Nick and I did a whole live reaction to it. For those of you, obviously some of you have already watched it. Thank you for that. Now, the end of that, like the last 10 minutes, there was like a weird glitch where the stream audio is fucks up, but we are fine. So as long as you only care about what we have to say, you're good to go. But if you want to see some of the highlights, obviously over on our kind of main channel, I'll say we have the highlights of some of the games that I think got a reaction out of us, and maybe some humorous ones in there as well. So Nick, I don't think we need to jump into this kind of in a systematic way. I think we'll kind of do the same thing we've probably done in the past, where we'll go back and forth. You say a game that you like, I'll see if it's on my list. I'll say a game I like. We'll see if it's on your list and go from there. So, do you have your list of favorites? Specifically, by the way, mine are from Gamescom Opening Night Live. So, just want to make that clear. But.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen a Future Game Show, but after the inbox, I'm thinking I need to go back. Watch that stream.
I will. Those are some highlights from the Future Games Show. So I guess you could use the inbox as your inspiration. But I think to make our discussion a little bit healthier, we'll say Opening Night Live, so we're not locking ourselves out of any indie games that might have been shining.
I don't have a list up in front of me yet, but I can open up with. I'll open up with like an unconventional one, I guess. I think we spoke a bit about it in the reactions, but during the pre-show, they announced a new Sniper Elite game. Sniper Elite Resistance.
Can't believe you started with my first game. What the fuck? Oh man. Yeah. Okay. So Sniper Elite Resistance.
Yeah, kind of like what I mentioned to you in the reactions. I've definitely played Sniper Elite 4, and I think I've played 3. It's either I played 3 or I watched a playthrough of 3 or
Sure.
something. I remember a decent bit about it. Well,
Yeah.
I say that. I remember, watching gameplay of it. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but Sniper Elite, it's one of those games where it's like, I don't know, like it has the look of something that's trying to be a little bit serious, but it definitely has that like tongue-in-cheek kind of nature to it.
Was it
Like,
the
and I'm
slow
not just talking
motion
about
ball shots that maybe gave you that impression?
I was gonna say it's not just that, right? Like
Okay.
that is
Okay.
definitely part of it, but like it's also in like the performance of the main character
Sure.
and stuff, where it's like, oh, I like I don't even like I think they're usually an American soldier, but it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta go in here and you know take these Nazis to task or whatever. Like it feels
Yeah.
like it understands exactly what it is, but also not like turning that dial so much to where it's like, hey, we're hokey goofy, go shoot the Nazi balls, even though that's what you kind of do. Like,
Yeah. Now,
but yeah, I think seeing a new game is, at least, you know, is cause for intrigue, I'll say.
yeah. Now, here's the kind of context for this, because I didn't know this obviously when we watched the trailer for it, but this is the kind of background for Sniper Elite Resistance, because it's not a named or no, sorry, numbered entry in the series. So that's because this is a new story that runs parallel with Sniper Elite 5. In this game, Harry Hawker, an agent of special operations, is an agent of the Special Operations Executive. Okay, it's but that spells out SOE, which just makes me think Sony Online Entertainment. So he's an agent of Sony Online Entertainment. He takes the lead for the first time as he discovers the insidious new Wunderwaffe, something as so powerful it guarantees the Nazis will win the war. So yeah, it's it's got obviously it's the campaign playing in co-op is really why this is on my list, and I can definitely see what you're saying about like it's kind of the way it dances its tone. It definitely, I wouldn't say that I'm super like this is a story first game, but it is interesting enough.
Mhm.
I think the only problem I had, and I believe it was with Sniper Elite 5, was that like some of the missions, like what Sniper Elite 5 did was like, it was like, hey, look at this large open area. You can really go to town and like how you want to accomplish the mission. And it even gives you the freedom to like, you can really split up with your co-op person, just kind of like go to different places, tackle different kind of objectives, even almost, if there's like two objectives you have to, similar to what you were saying with Payday. But it was a little too open at times, and like it took so long to finish a mission. I'm like, okay, it needs to be a little bit more reined in, maybe a little bit more kind of tighter. And I'm hoping that's what we get here with with the Resistance.
Yeah, it's like playing Sniper Elite feels like it shares some DNA with something like Hitman, but like
Yeah.
not quite as like, like I said before, not quite as like, goofy or like intentionally setting up situations that are, you know, prime for hijinks that you get in
Yeah.
Hitman. It's like, a little bit more grounded in Sniper Elite, but yeah, I just thought that was like
That
an
is,
interesting kind of out of nowhere announcement where it's like I wasn't even thinking about another Sniper Elite
there were
game,
two
but
games that
cool.
I used to like were on my backlog. Actually, two game series that were always on my backlog. Sniper Elite was one that I was able to clear. I haven't played all of them, but I played enough to where like they're not all on my backlog specifically. Like 4 and 5 were on my backlog. Now, the one that I have left is the Sniper Ghost Warrior games. And I own like 2 of them because I'm like, oh, I'll play them. I like that. I like these kind of games, but I just never got into it. But I've heard it. They're sniping games. They're equally as engaging. Next, I'll go. Okay. I think I'll bring this up mostly just for. Actually, no. No. I'll stick with the pre-show. We Harvest Shadows. This was the one that was described as an anti-cozy farming game or farming horror game, and it's from David Well, Wehle. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but I thought this was actually a first-person farming horror allegory. That's what it is. I apologize for misquoting that. This one just, I mean, look, you guys know I hate cozy games. That's what it is. At least if you watched our Gamescom reaction, I think I played that. This one looks awesome. It was, again, it's this weird fringe idea. It's very niche, but as I said during the reaction, it's kind of like the concept you have to buy into, and you're like, you're essentially playing a guy who's trying to wait out like death until on this little house, and there's something creepy going on as well. There's like he's not alone. There's that the horror elements are not gentle, I suppose I'll say, but it looks nice.
Yeah,
it's got that atmosphere. Yeah,
I was gonna say I think it. It's not obviously confirmed by the trailer or anything, but it feels like the kind of game where it's like very like dual focused, where during the day you're doing tasks around the farm and stuff like that, whereas at night that's when all the creepy scary stuff starts happening. So like I bet there's going to be some sort of push and pull where you're doing things to get resources, or like maybe doing things to get ammo for a gun, because there's one scene that we see where he pulls out a gun and there's creepy things trying to eat you or whatever. So like I imagine it's going to be like, during the day that's your respite and get your resources and get your tasks in order, and then at night that's maybe what's like pushing the narrative forward, I suppose. Whatever kind of narrative is baked in there.
Also, I mean, We Harvest Shadows. I don't rate titles, but if I did, I'd say this is a pretty unique one. And if you have any interest, the game is available. The demo is available on Steam, so you can also play it for yourself. What would you say about the title, Nick?
We Harvest Shadows. That's a pretty good one.
It's unique enough where you're not going to get it confused with other games. Maybe We Happy Few if you're like really confusing it, but yeah,
we like the concept of harvesting shadows. I feel that's an interesting enough mix there that it ends up being pretty unique.
All right, Nick, it's your turn.
Let's see here. Should I talk about one that I'm cautiously optimistic for, but didn't like the trailer?
Sure. Is it Borderlands 4?
It is Borderlands 4.
Oh man, that's funny. Okay.
Yeah, I've played all of the Borderlands games except for New Tales of the Borderlands. I didn't play that one. But
sure.
I'm a casual Borderlands fan. Like I really like Borderlands 2. I think that's widely considered, the best of the series. I played Borderlands 3 a couple years ago and I was like, it's okay, but it felt like it didn't really, change the formula all that much.
Yeah.
And then I played Wonderlands obviously earlier this year that we talked about, and I enjoyed the visual change to fantasy over like, traditional Borderlands stuff. So like I wouldn't say that I like outright hate any of these games or anything like that, but this trailer just it's one of those trailers, right? It's just a CG kind of
not gameplay if you're wondering.
And like the CG looks nice. It's like this, moon or something crashing into a fake atmosphere or something, but like there's just not a whole lot to really go off of.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I wanted to actually. I also wanted to bring up Borderlands, but not because I was looking forward to it, but because like in this, am I crazy? In this visual, it shows this planet essentially breaking, I'm guessing, some sort of a gap between realities, and then we go to this new reality where this person picks up the mask, the psycho mask, and that's how it ends. So I don't think. I mean, I kind of gave myself an out when we were doing the live reaction. I was like, I don't know if this is what necessarily happening, but looking at it now and having rewatched it, I really do think that they're gonna change the look of Borderlands. I feel like that's what this is as they step into this new generation. This feels like this is how they, again, it's still a little bit of the cell shading, but it looks more crisp. It looks more kind of like, I don't know. Do you also get that it's not the same Borderlands? It's not the same style,
I certainly think it would be interesting if they change it. I'm still not ruling out that this is just some CG look because
sure.
yeah, like I feel like the psycho mask is like the important thing there. So it's like I wouldn't exactly put like if I were betting on this, right? Like I wouldn't put all my chips in saying that oh, it's going to be a more realistic looking Borderlands. I do think that would be interesting. I'm just not sure they would be willing to completely
I'm just looking at this mask and instead of the more cartoony or maybe just the this color that makes it look a little bit flatter. I don't know how to describe it, but here I'm pausing this image of this psycho mask, and it is it looks like a it looks sort of like cosplay where in real life when people make something and it's high quality and then they add the cell shading later, that's kind of what it's like real life things they add cell shading to. That's what
that would be kind of interesting, I think, honestly, if they were going to change it and blended it in that way.
It would be the obvious choice because I'm gonna say that this is, I don't think they showed it here, but I'm gonna assume this is gonna be built on the Unreal Engine. I would assume.
I think they're on Unreal. If
I'm
not mistaken.
They were also loyal to the Epic Game Store, though obviously this game is coming to Steam as well.
Yeah, Borderlands 3 is on Unreal Engine 4, so
yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked by that. But yeah, I mean, Borderlands, it's I like those games, so an announcement of a new game, I'm gonna be like, hey, that's kind of cool. But yeah, like I said, it's just the trailer's not really anything to write home about. It's basically just a title reveal. So
yeah. All right, well, that's Borderlands 4. We deep dove into that one.
What's your next one, Sri?
All right, I'll do something more of my roots. The one I haven't. Okay. Directive 8020. This is a new game in the Dark Picture anthology, though it's not. I don't, to quote it specifically, they say it's a Dark Picture game, so I don't think it's necessarily part of the. It's not bundled into that same anthology as before. This seems to be they're moving out and doing their own a separate thing now. So, for those of you who don't know, this is from the studio behind Until Dawn and The Quarry, and this one specifically stars Lashana Lynch, who they quote here for being starring in Bob Marley, One Love, and The Woman King. But for me, I think of her mostly from No Time to Die as the new James Bond, or the new 007, I should say. But the Directive 8020 blends intense survival gameplay with a branching narrative storyline, just like every other supermassive game pretty much does. But in this one, Earth is dying and humanity is running out of time. 12 light years from home. I don't even know how to say that. I'll just say the colony ship of Cassiopeia crash lands on this planet, and the crew soon realize they are far from being alone. So it's sort of Alien-esque, I guess, But I'm super down. If you know anything about me, I like me some aliens.
This trailer gave me very Callisto Protocol.
I think we might have actually said it. Imagine a Callisto sequel. It would have been.
Yeah. I think it was the way that the half melted creature.
Yes,
designs look. It looked very Callisto Protocol E.
Yeah, this one's coming out next year. It's PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC via Steam. I'm looking forward to it just because I've only played one of the Dark Picture games. I played the Man of Medan. That's what I played.
That's the only one that I've played too.
and it's the same thing. I think that it's a market that they uniquely have kind of cornered. And it's weird because I feel like they created this niche for themselves. I mean, I'm not saying Until Dawn, created the cinematic horror movie kind of like niche, but it definitely like was a big like that was a highlight of that game, and that's why people kind of talked about it so much. And I feel like they might have kind of lost they lost the formula somehow of doing it. Like they're like, we got it. This is the fucking perfect recipe. And it's like, oh shit, we threw the recipe away. So they've been searching for themselves a little bit, I think.
I feel like with Supermassive and specifically Dark Pictures stuff, like again, as like a casual on the outside looking in on Supermassive, it feels like in a way the games I would say kind of follow in the Telltale lineage of like,
sure, yeah, that's fair.
They're not like direct action games, but like, choice is part of the experience. And similarly to Telltale, I feel like they announced like so many of the Dark Pictures games and stuff, and so many of them are of like varying quality from what I've seen. It's like Man of Medan has its lovers, but then like, The Devil in Me I heard was maybe not the greatest and stuff. So it's interesting to see how they toe that line. Like whereas, what kind of pitfalls they fall into that, kind of mirror Telltale in a way of spreading the resources a bit too thin with different games versus, I think they have probably fared better than Telltale on the whole. Like I would definitely say Dark Pictures is successful. It's just like, I don't know how like, a Dark Pictures game would like, where is Dark Pictures against Until Dawn, I guess? Like, is Until Dawn like specifically like head and shoulders above success wise what they do with Dark Pictures, or if it is like, is it still trying to like nip at the heels of that?
I think that you make a good point. I think that this is sort of that them figuring that out. So yes, like I was saying, I think they had such a big hit with Until Dawn and they couldn't quite duplicate it. I think part of the reason for that is that they ambitiously dove into the Dark Pictures anthology, and they announced it, and it's like going to be like this thing, and every game is going to have this star-studded cast. Which, to their credit, they have been sticking to the celebrity casts, but I do think that kind of had a crutch to it a little bit almost, because like if I honestly believe that if you release those games as individual games, not as in like they're tied to this Dark Pictures anthology, which was so much of the marketing initially for those games, they would have sold better, because there's not, when you add a tag to it, if one game in that series is bad, which I think that the first one reviewed okay, the second one I think was the one that reviewed a little poorly. Immediately that the series gets a little funk, like, oh, like did they get themselves out of that rut? Like sure there's that talk, but by separating it, like the Quarry, for example, was like just separate. I don't know if the Quarry did any better, but Quarry was individual. This one specifically too, again, it's a Dark Pictures game, and they also specify that this is a quote, a dramatic step forward for the series, because the unquote, because the game features persistent real-time threats, all new stealth gameplay mechanics, and enhanced interactive cinematics powered by Unreal Engine 5.
I'm wondering if that kind of speaks to me. I wonder if they're trying to inject a bit more like actual active gameplay versus like kind of, what the Dark Pictures has been, the like fixed camera, like, you're controlling a character, but it's very structured, I guess.
I mean, I think the where I'd love to see this game end up when it, again, 2025, so we got some time, but where I'd love to see it end up is that the same cinematic quality that they're known for, but then you add in a sort of a xenomorph almost that kind of prowls that, and you can kind of see the reflection of this thing in her mask in the kind of promo image, because obviously, again, it almost like the xenomorph from Alien Isolation, where it's that iconic shot of like the character looking over her shoulder, and then the reflection of the xenomorph on the mask. Her half her face is shadowed, and you can see the monster in this game. So I imagine that thing will probably have some sort of AI that'll sniff you out, and that it'll really be that makes or breaks the game, I think, for me. But cool. Anyway,
Right.
Directive 8020 from Supermassive Games. Nick, wait, was that your game? Was that Mike? No,
That
that
was
was my
your
game. That was my game. That was my.
Are we doing games that we specifically like, or should I bring up some trailers that are for games that I'm not interested in?
I would say just the ones that you liked, but if there's anything you want to just throw in, just like fuck that game.
I'll hit both of these quickly.
Okay.
Then in that case, the inverse of the Borderlands trailer for me was the Goat Simulator remastered trailer, because I liked where that trailer started. Right, it's this cash grab insane asylum, and they're going through like glitchy remasters. They're referencing things like Skyrim, or like the bad rain effect from the GTA trilogy remaster. Like, I was like, oh, this is kind of this has got some attitude. It's pretty funny. And then it ends up being Goat Simulator, and it's just like, I have no interest in those games. I've played a little bit of 3, and like it's like, I get it, but it's also not like an engaging or fulfilling game experience for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I thought this was gonna be like, kind of like a fourth wall break, like, game about like the industry, but then it's just Goat Simulator.
I was so excited because it got my fucking like gears turning. I was like, oh, imagine a game where I would say it's sort of, imagine something sort of like, how in Control there's like this secret organization. So I was like, oh, imagine there's like an organization that's like, the whole thing is just like glitches in video games. Like they connect the video game universe, and it's like the bugs. Like there's so many possibilities that it could have been. It's like a fucking tease for a game that I know I'm not gonna enjoy. Like, you know what I mean?
The trailer was teasing something that was, I think, way better than what the actual game that it's advertising is.
And it's, I think, yes, because like I remember the last time I saw Goat Simulator, that one I think it was Goat Simulator 3 trailer, where they were mocking the Dead Island trailer.
Which that was fun.
That one was fun because I was like, oh, what the fuck? Is this Dead Island? And then I was like, oh, it's Goat Simulator. Here I was like, oh, this looks like it could be cool. And then it's like, oh, it's Goat Simulator. And this one, not even a new Goat Simulator. It's a remake or remaster of the first one. So I was, that one pissed me off, Nick. It was a good shout. Good shout. I forgot about it.
The other trailer that I want to talk about that I had like some issues with was for Arc Raiders.
What did you even see to pick a bone with? That was
So basically what again, like I'm not like, sitting here just being angry at games or anything, right?
How dare you?
But a couple years ago, Arc Raiders was originally shown off at, I think it was the Game Awards, and like we got like a CG trailer, and it's like, kind of doing the retro 70s-esque future kind of space stuff, and that does scratch a specific itch that I have usually.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but again, kind of like Borderlands CG trailer, we'll see in a couple years. And then Jeff comes out on stage to talk about Arc Raiders here, and it's just like, yep, they've been quiet for a couple years, and like he's like kind of pitching like we're gonna see some radically different gameplay here, and then it's like another CG trailer that's like kind of not edited the best. It like jumps around, and then it kind of cuts off, and it's like more info next year, and it's like, what? Like I thought we were gonna at least get like some gameplay here, but like
it was literally just,
it seems like it's at the same spot that it was at years ago.
It was a minute-long trailer that all it did was give you a release window of when you would be able to see it. But like, yeah, I mean, it's,
and like the original gameplay or whatever trailer that was, I seem to remember, I haven't seen it in a long time, but like it was kind of a I don't know if it's like a service game, but like a co-op like shooter kind of thing I was getting vibes from. So it's like when he
Uh-huh.
was talking about like they kind of went back, went dark again. It's like I was wondering if like does that mean that like we're changing the type of game that this is? Is this going to be like a more like story focused game or something like that? But
Right.
you I still have the same questions about this game that I had years ago after watching this new trailer.
Yeah. No. That one was also Nick. What are you doing? You're bringing down the mood. I gotta bring it back up. Fuck. Oh, here we go. Tim Miller cried for this. The secret
This
levels.
was probably my highlight of the show.
Oh shit. Okay. I had a close second, but yes, I do agree. So Tim Miller came out and he talked about Secret Levels, which was a TV show that they've been working on, an anthology that they've been working on for a few years now, and it's coming to Amazon Prime in December. And it's essentially like I said, it's an anthology that's of different video game universes. And go check out the video where Nick and I read through all of them, where and we react to the trailers. But essentially, some of the ones that we saw that we know are going to be there: Warhammer 40K, 100%. Kratos is in it. There's also the Sifu, the guy from Ghost of Tsushima. I forget his name. And then, so those are all PlayStation stuff as well. Concord is also getting one, which is honestly, it makes a lot of sense because the animation of Concord is almost like like ready to be a TV show, like based on this quality. And yeah, there's a few. Pac-Man that had one. There's a few new ones as well that I hadn't personally recognized. There's some Amazon exclusive ones like New World. So overall, yeah, Secret Level just looked really fucking good. I mean, just really top-notch animation quality here.
Yeah, so it'll be like, standalone episodes in each of these like different franchises and stuff. I know ones that stood out to me were Mega Man, Armored Core, and Outer Worlds is getting some.
And
so
we actually blew past it, I guess, because the trailer was moving so fast that I didn't even realize that the Armored Core was starring Keanu Reeves. I didn't
realize that at first. Like I noticed it was Keanu Reeves.
I also did. And I was like, it must be like
out after.
Cyberpunk. I was like, I didn't it didn't like really engage with it. But yeah, so it's Keanu is not in a Cyberpunk short. He's in Armored Core.
But I'm wondering if because I'll get into why this was like my thing of the show, right? But Armored Core specifically, just to do a quick side tangent, if Blur Studios and Tim Miller are working with each of the individual studios for these things that they're adapting or making short stories with, to get like an animated short thing potentially with like the From Software like aesthetic and like shot structure and stuff. It's like, man, that's gonna be a cool looking sci-fi thing. I mean, those Armored Core trailers were awesome.
Yes,
so it's like to get like like just like a short film animated episode, however you want to describe it.
Yeah,
I think is going to be so awesome. But the reason why this was my most anticipated is like I wouldn't say any of the games that are in this first season are like my favorite games ever, right? Like
sure.
I liked Outer Worlds. I've
Outer
played a little bit
Worlds
of Armored
2
Core.
is going to get one as well.
Yeah,
just to name it.
So it's like
Crossfire.
None of these are like games that I'm like super super passionate about. But already just from this first trailer, it's like obviously Blur Studios doesn't need to prove themselves, right? They have contributed to Love, Death, and Robots, like you said, and all of these other video games like for decades. Like there were Blur cutscenes for 360 games and stuff, right?
Yep.
So they don't need to prove themselves. So that there's a pretty good quality bar that they're going to hit with these. As long as the storytelling is good in these, then if this show performs well, then that just like opens the floodgates. It's like, okay, so like literally things that would never get some sort of like movie or TV series or something like that from the world of games, maybe it's like an indie game or like some obscure game that, has its fans, but
Yes. Yeah.
is not something that's like, marketable in the modern day, let's say. It's like any of that stuff could, open up the door and get like just a one-off episode or something in like a future season of this show.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that something like Mega Man is in here because
Yeah.
ever since Mega Man 11, I mean, all we've really gotten from that franchise are like remaster port collections and stuff. It's like, it seems like maybe that they're not willing to, you know, commit to a brand new full game, but it's like, hey, for people that are fans of Mega Man, it's like you get a cool, like, I don't know how long the episodes are in Love, Death, and Robots, but it's like you get like half hour, 40-minute, cool Mega Man short. It's like that's probably gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be so interesting. It's like, just the possibilities, I think, are what excite me the most about Secret Level. It's just like, what if we I was texting my one friend Shane, that I've mentioned on the podcast before, and he said he was kind of hoping to see Halo in the lineup because Blur did the Halo 2 and remastered cutscenes.
Yeah.
And he's like, we could wash out the taste of the Paramount show with that. And I was like, yeah, you're not wrong.
I doubt that'll happen, but hey.
So like it's weird that in a gaming showcase, my highlight is for a
non-gaming
TV series.
Yeah,
right.
Not game,
but
I should
like,
say. It is gaming related, but
yeah, it's just I think I love the concept. I think the animation obviously looks awesome, and my mind just starts racing at like, what could we see down the line if this does
I think the
well.
biggest underdog, so to say, it's not, I know it's a huge game, but the one that really kind of excites me, apart from Warhammer because I'm a nerd now, but is Spelunky, because that's like the indie game.
That's another one
where
that,
it's like
I heard, and it's like that'll be really interesting.
You're not going to get a story like that, especially with this quality from out of that studio any other way. Not that they wouldn't be capable of it, but it's just like, the budget we're talking about here is like just crazy. So and the fact that Spelunky's there is actually gives me a good, it's a sign of confidence, because it would suck if to hypothesize that they'll eventually get there, and then it's just a bunch of like, all AAA games, they're making Skull and Bones fucking shorts or whatever. That would be a different thing. The fact that they're coming out and they do have a game like Spelunky just thrown in there right out the season one, I think that's promising for what's to come with this series. And I really do. Again, I will be watching this just to like support it and get it. I'm gonna champion this thing for a season 2, because I haven't even watched season 1, but I know that this is something that cool. It's like something that didn't really exist in the gaming sphere like this, and it's just yeah, it's cool to see.
Yeah, and I think the Outer Worlds 2, I think, is a really interesting choice here, because then,
why not Avowed?
This could be, taken cynically, or it could be taken, non-cynically. Sure. I think the cynical take would be like, okay, is Secret Level going to become like an advertising tool for games and upcoming stuff? The non-cynical part of me goes, it'll be really interesting to get like some sort of like prequel or like look at what is to come in Outer Worlds 2. Because obviously we're going to be seeing this before that game comes out. So
yeah, there's
some interesting things that can be like, synced up potentially with Secret Level and be like, a brand new, let's, I don't want to spoil it for later, but like, let's, I don't know, Minecraft. Let's just say something stupid like Minecraft. It's just like, oh yeah, Minecraft has a new update. They tease the new enemy in the update in the Secret Level episode or something. So
there could be some really cool to see. It just, the thing that sucks, and I know it's going to suck right off the bat, is that these episodes look so good that they will take so much time. That it's like season 1 will not just be right after season 2. It'll take some time before these things come out. Just even if you're just looking at like how Love, Death, and Robots comes out. But anyway, Nick,
right?
Your pick.
I won't bring it back down again. I'll kick it into your wheelhouse. Do you want to talk about Reanimal?
Oh shit. Okay. Yes. So, I mean, first of all, it's your choice. I'll let you say something about Reanimal first, but
I have not played Little Nightmares. Obviously, this is the studio behind Little Nightmares 1 and 2, with a new game. And, let's be honest, it's basically Little Nightmares 3 in everything but name. It has that same kind of, dark, disgusting art style that those games are known for.
This is what THQ teased at the end of their showcase, saying that it'll be revealed during Gamescom, and that's what we got here. Is at Gamescom we saw the Reanimal.
I think their games have such a strong visual style.
Yeah.
This might be like, too basic to compare to, but like, it does give me Inside vibes from Playdead and their kind of art style where it's like muted colors but a lot of depth and like definitely like a striking look on the screen.
Yeah.
And so there's creepy things here. I love the way that I guess like the shots in the game are structured and like you were talking about cinematic games with style earlier, and it's like that. I feel like these games kind of fit in to that
hell yeah
descriptor very well, where it's just like it's a 2D platforming section or something, but just on the way that they have it framed and everything, it just looks so interesting and dynamic.
Yeah.
It does make me want to play those other games. It's not like I've just like avoided Little Nightmares or anything like that. They're one of those backlog games where it's like, I'll get to it someday. But
you're scared, Nick. You can admit it.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I'm just a big scaredy cat when it comes to these games.
What Nick doesn't tell you, I need to run a political ad, actually. Hold on, let me do that real fast. What Nick Sivak doesn't tell you is that he plays The Evil Within with all his lights on in the middle of the day. There you go.
Yep.
See, now it's a smear campaign. No,
Bringing over
Reanimal looks
the
awesome,
title
though.
ranking, though, we said this in the
Hell
reactions. Love that title. Great title.
And I love the way it came on, too, like where it's kind of like flips and then slip. It's like kind of like it's bold. I like the way. I'm always a big fan of title cards, and obviously this is not the title card. This is just for the trailer, but strong first impression. This coming out for PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. Yeah, I mean, Nick said everything I could. It looks awesome. It really has this. It is, I think, unique to both Tarsier Studios. I believe that's how you say their name, and then and Playdead, where they have this like it's dark and twisted, often centered around like children, and it tells sometimes effective stories. I don't know, like Limbo, I was a little bit mixed about in terms of like what it was trying to say. I thought Inside got connected with more kind of like on a meaning level, or like kind of what it was trying to say, type of thing. So it's not always like 100% sync. But that being said, the experience of playing it, the intensity of those moments where you're trying to run away and like, which even in the trailer you get, it's definitely looking forward to Reanimal. Though obviously it's just been announced, so there's no date on that one yet.
If you're not a fan of animals and broken limbs, maybe it's a pass for you.
Yeah. Or if you are a fan of animals, I should say. If you are a fan of animals and you don't want to see them in horrific ways, then because there's some the sheep with its fucking like something coming out of its mouth, and I mean, look, this is gonna be fucked up. You can kind of bet your money on that.
Right.
Speaking of fucked up, next game is it's not that fucked up actually. It's Dying Light: The Beast. This was one of the surprises of the night because did not expect a new Dying Light game and also didn't expect it to be this like a spin-off game, but Dying Light: The Beast is...
Real quick, Sri, before you continue there, I thought you were going to go from, speaking of fucked up, you were going to pull like a Monument Valley 3 or something. Like, I just feel like...
It's funny because I'm looking at my list and I was actually going to say Masters of Albion, but I was like, no, I can't do it. So I changed it. Right, it was literally above each other, and I almost said it. And I was like, no, I can't. So Dying Light, The Beast. It's a standalone adventure set in the Dying Light universe, where you play as Kyle Crane, a legendary hero who breaks free after years of brutal experimentations. Now he must realize there's more at stake than just revenge. Okay? That's the story pitch. I have not played the Dying Light games. They are similar to Little Nightmares 1 and 2 for Nick on my backlog. I've gotten a little bit mixed the conversations because I've heard some people say, oh, I should play only Dying Light 1. Some people say only just don't worry about Dying Light 1 and just play 2. Some people say both. So I don't really know how to feel about it. That's part of the reason why I haven't played any of the games of the series. But, I mean, look, I saw Techland. I'm like, I only know Techland does one thing. It was Dying Light. So I wasn't hugely surprised that it was a Dying Light adjacent game, but just the fact that so soon after Dying Light 2 we have this was interesting. Also, one thing I thought was fun, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when the Dying Light 2 was coming out, and obviously Dying Light 2 infamously went through a bunch of delays, and during which one of the ways they talked, like worked through that was like, hey, here's some information about Dying Light, as it was approaching release. And they said, oh, yeah, the game takes like 100 hours to complete. And then it became this totally like misconstrued, out of context, dragged out thing where people were like, this game's going to be too long. And then they had to make a statement being like, guys, it's actually not that long. We were just like exaggerating a little bit by like, it's for like completing it. It's short. So to kind of, I guess, get ahead of all of that, they had Jeff Keighley say, a 20-hour adventure or something like that on stage, so what to expect with this game. You don't
so everybody can yell at Jeff instead of them.
So it's not 100 hours, guys. Dying Light the Beast, 20 hours, roughly. And that's a pretty sweet spot for open world kind of games like this. There's no release date on this either. So I'm of the mind now. Maybe I've been twisted by retrograde, but at this point I'm like, oh, this game's coming out eventually in the future. Maybe I'll play the game before it for retrograde. If not, we'll see how it goes. So maybe we'll play Dying Light later on I'm guessing next year at the very earliest was when we'll see this. But if not, I mean, I'm curious just to see how a Dying Light game plays. I realized that, was it last episode? I did my review of Downward, and I remember I did like a whole bunch of like pitches of like, oh, if you like this, try Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and some stupid joke. But I realized I should have suggested Dying Light, and for anyone who was wondering why I didn't, it's because I have not played it, so I can't really say it. I can't support it, but. If you do like parkour, I've heard the Dying Light is a good option. Have you played any of them? I don't know if you've.
I've not. I haven't played Dead Island or Dying Light.
Oh shit, so. Nick! I mean, I don't know if this will sell you on Dying Light the Beast, but I think that the main voice of Kyle Crane is Roger Craig Smith.
Roger Craig Smith.
Is that not someone?
Am
I getting the name wrong? I could be, actually.
Are you thinking?
Maybe I'll just hype up Roger Craig Smith.
I mean, I've definitely heard that name. I'm trying to remember.
He's let's see. Let's go to his IMDb. So he's notably known for Batman and Batman Arkham Origins. He's also Ezio in the Ezio, the Assassin's Creed games. He's he's in a I was going to say he's Ezio again in the VR Assassin's Creed game. Oh, he's Kale in Hi-Fi Rush. Kale Vandelay.
Okay.
So, yes, I figured you'd know Roger Craig Smith. But maybe not by name. He's Germ Foreman in Psychonauts 2, as well as Froggy Flipper. Yeah, a huge fuck. I did not realize how extensive this man's fucking list is. He's Mirage in Apex Legends. He's Guy Fieri in American Dad. I mean, the talent knows no bounds.
That's some
Wow.
range.
Yeah, dude. He's Kylo Ren in Battlefront 2.
What's the character's name again? Kyle Karn?
His name is Kyle Crane, I believe is what it is.
Crane. Hey, every time you
Kyle
said his
Crane,
name, I
yeah.
was thinking you were gonna say Kyle Katarn from the old Star Wars games.
Oh. No. Yeah,
Sounds very similar.
Kyle Crane. I believe he's the guy from the first game, right? Isn't that because I think
That's kind of the vibe that I got.
I think
from
you
what
switch
they were
protagonists in
saying.
the second one, so you go back to the first one. I think, but now I guess now I know a spoiler that I'm guessing at some point he gets trapped and he's endures years of brutal experiments. So, oh well, now we know. All right, Nick, what do you got next?
Indiana Jones and the Great
Get
Circle.
the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. All right, talk about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Here's Sri, you're the Steam Deck shill on here. I'll be the Todd Howard shill. So,
Yep.
but yeah, Indy. Still not a trailer that I love. I'm not sure what the decision making behind the Indiana Jones trailers is. It seems very odd that, like, again, the cynical person would watch these trailers and be like, what are they hiding that they keep just cutting to different things?
They're hiding the gameplay
Versus like, showing an extended gameplay sequence. But nothing from the individual trailers looks bad to me. Like I think the game visually looks very cool. I think it seems like it's going to be, I've mentioned this before, but it's like, every year or so, every couple years, we get a game that I really like a lot that feels like older games. And it's like, how did, this team make this? So like Psychonauts 2 and Hi-Fi Rush are like the two that I put in that box where it's like Psychonauts 2 feels like platformers that I used to play on like original Xbox. Go figure, the first game is on there, right?
Yeah.
Or like Hi-Fi Rush feels like action games we got in the 360 era that aren't over bloated with like RPG mechanics and open world stuff, right?
Sure. Yep.
So Indiana Jones, from everything that I see, like it feels like it's one of those just kind of like weirdly, again, it looks a lot better than these, but it kind of gives me the vibes of like older licensed games where it's like it's just kind of like a linear action game with puzzles and like fun mechanics. So it's like it's again, it's too early to say, and like obviously like I want to play it and everything, but like it feels like this might be in contention for that kind of spot this year for me, where it's like this feels like a game that like has all the modern things we come to expect and nice visuals, but it feels like a game of like an older time, right?
See,
and yeah, I just think it looks like a fun Indiana Jones game.
I agree. I think it does feel more of like a. I wouldn't. I see what you're saying about like the license game. It kind of gives me like those old like 2008. I say old. Fucking goddamn it. 2008 games where it's like, it's, like a linear first person game, but it feels it's sort of campy in its own way. Like it kind of understands its own limitations, but I think that's part of the charm of those games that like a game like this doesn't really have, because it's modern technology. It's a studio that has a pretty big backing, so it's not like they're not restrained. They don't have to play those kind of. I think it plays a little differently, is what I'm saying. As in, like those games might have had some passes that I would have given them that I would be a little bit more strict on about the Great Circle specifically, or unless you had something to, if you wanted to make a point there.
I was just gonna say, I have something else to say before we get off of Indiana Jones.
Okay.
If you were going,
well, and then else. So like one of the points that I was gonna say is like I don't understand the decision here. Is again, first of all, I'm not huge on Indiana Jones. I don't hate Indiana Jones. I also don't love Indiana Jones. I like some of the movies. I went to theaters to see the last one. Holy shit! If you watched that movie, did not expect it to go where it did. Anyway, have you watched that movie?
No, unfortunately. I was going to, and then reviews came out, and everybody was kind of mixed on it, and it kind of killed my hype for it.
Damn. Well, it's interesting. It could have ended even in like a crazier place than it actually does. But anyway, the thing that's like weird to me is that like you have it's first person, but then you have third person sequences in it, like mixed in inadvertently, whether and it shows it in the gameplay, whether that's mantling in certain parts, the mantling switches to third person, or not mantling, like climbing
the whip and stuff.
yeah. And also I believe there was something else for the they cut to third person for, not just a parkour. But either way, I get. Oh yeah, I mean, you get to climb up ledges as well, not just using the whip. But either way, I find it weird when games automatically move. As Concord did a similar thing where it's a first person game, but when you dodge in that game, it takes you to third person and puts you back in. I'm like, what the like. Just put me in one, or like a Bethesda game. Give me the option to press a button and then switch to the camera that I'd like. This is not that kind of game, so I don't know. I am a little bit mixed on the game because I was really excited for Machine Games to do an Indiana Jones game, but I feel like the closer we get to release and the less I see of this game, I'm really shocked that we haven't seen. Hey guys, let's just see. Here's a 10-minute sequence of just playing through a mission. Let's see how Indy gets this random artifact, and that's it. Like, because they did show a gameplay scene, a little scene, I should say, during the Xbox Games Showcase in June. But that actually did not interest me. Like that whole sequence, I thought. I personally
most of it was cutscene.
You don't get there was nothing that sold me on that on the game in that sequence, and
I think that's what's going to be very interesting about this game, like kind of all of what you're talking about, where it's like we see these things that are like, they seem kind of odd, and like by the time we play the game, either it's gonna be that's pretty weird that they do those, or it's like maybe it's just enough where it like. It kind of, it's going for what they want. Because, like, I could see specifically, like, if we take the example of, like, climbing or something like that. Climbing in first person, like, you can do it, but it is a little bit stale, maybe.
Sure.
Like, that's, I was... Like, let's bring up Valley Peaks, right?
Sure.
It's a first-person climbing game, and... the interesting part are the mechanics that you're dealing with while you're climbing. So the fact that you're just staring up at a cliff face for most of the climbing, it's kind of fine because your mind is going in other places with the climbing stuff, right? It's like, I can only grab this rock here, or I need to grab onto this rocket to launch me up. We're not going to be doing that in Indiana Jones. Or like when Nathan Drake is, climbing on a wall, he's not having to deal with things like that. It's like, press the arrow and watch him move, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think it will make things like climbing just a little bit more visually interesting if they pull out for, third person, so that you're not just again looking up at bricks jutting out of a wall, right?
Yeah.
But you bring up Concord, and like I agree. I thought Concord was very weird. How it pulled out to third person. So it'll be interesting to see, I guess, how often it's used and how specifically it is used.
I think that the last Indiana Jones game I played was on the Wii. I remember having a good time with that one, though. But it's weird that, again, I feel like so much of this would either be dispelled or proven by a gameplay sequence, because another thing is that I just played a Machine Games game earlier this year. I played the Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. And for me, like, that game runs like plays really smoothly in terms of like, you can run around as BJ Blazkowicz and slide and shoot, and like it feels like you're more of an action hero. I understand Indy's kind of an action hero, but the gameplay here is much slower. Either they're not showing it that way and like in the gameplay, or that's not how the game plays. But just from what we've like, even just this trailer, he's not like moving super fast. He's like, even when he's everything from climbing to like walk, he's just like everything is super slow. So I feel like, again, they're trying to play for the Machine Gun Games strength I just don't know if we're there yet. We'll see. We'll find out later this year on December for Xbox and PC, and spring 2025 for PS5.
The last thing I wanted to bring up with indie pertains to what you just said, and it's some media outlets have had like a offhands demo that they've seen, and exactly what you said. The sentiment seems to be that the game is pretty slow paced compared to like Wolfenstein, and it's definitely more in the like sneaking and puzzly area as opposed to like, we're gonna run through a level and blast all the enemies and get into fist fights with Indy.
Well, so I didn't know that. I think it is out.
Yeah, like I said, apparently it's offhands, and it's like it wasn't much. It was like maybe 15 minutes that they got to see, right? And then there was a Q&A session. So it does seem like it's going to be slower and more stealthy, more puzzly. But again, like I think if they can nail that balance, and it feels like
just an Indiana Jones walking simulator
or something, yeah, I think they'll not have a whole lot of real issues. It's really going to come down to how that game feels and how it's paced.
I just, for Xbox's sake, I hope this is a hit. It would be. This cannot be another Redfall.
I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to Redfall. I'm confident.
I would have also said the same thing about Redfall, Nick, because the pedigree of that studio is also pretty impressive. But here we are.
Sure.
I'm one of the few people, and I can say that I'm one of the few people who I think finished the entire game when it came out before all the updates and stuff. All right. Okay, I think it's me now, right? Because you said Great Circle.
Yep.
All right. There's a few games. I'm only going to the games that like I really are like, at the top of my list. So that's why I didn't mention Masters of Albion, because I'm not like I can't really speak to that game. Same thing with Revenge of the Savage Planet. I can't really speak to that game. So those looked cool just from the previews that we got, and
I thought it was fun seeing Peter Molyneux on stage, but that's more of the highlight than the actual game. So.
Yes. So there's only two things I have here. I'll mention briefly. Lost Records, which is from Don't Nod, looked cool as well. That one I know I'll be interested in. Nick, do you have any interest in? Actually, I'll save it for the end. I'll just run through. All right, so last two, but I'll say one and then we'll go back to Nick. Second to last one on my list is Let's Build a Dungeon. It's a game dev sim. Now, I have to be honest, I cannot remember if this was during the Gamescom Opening Night Live or if this was during Xbox's showcase the next day.
I think Xbox, because I'm not even familiar with what this game is.
So then I'm breaking the rules of this as Opening Night Live. But this is essentially, it's from the developers of Let's Build a Zoo, which is also on Game Pass. And so this is our next game. It's Let's Build a Dungeon. But the crazy thing is, it's Let's Build a Dungeon, game dev civ. Or sorry, game dev sim, not civ. And what they've done here is essentially build a game where you can build a dungeon. You're building a game studio is what you're doing. You're creating a studio with all the resources you get. But the crazy thing is they've essentially built in all the functions, not all the functions, but a lot of the functions of a game engine into the game. So you can make games in the game. So you can make and download games that are, you can write like, first of all, you can design characters, and the game will animate its path. Like, so like if you design like a sprite, it'll animate the sprite for you. So it'll kind of move. You can design the levels either using your I'm guessing you can use your own assets as well, but they has preloaded assets as well. And you can write scripts too. So like, a character, if a character says this, the dialogue goes this way. If a character says this, the dialogue goes that way. That is all built in and packaged into Let's Build a Dungeon. And just a preview of it, I thought was just so interesting that I had to mention it. It immediately shot up on my list for, being the most kind of intriguing. There's some kind of gameplay and stuff you guys can see in the background, But just who knows? Maybe I'll be putting out a game in Dungeon Simulator. Or sorry, Let's Build a Dungeon, not Dungeon Simulator. Yeah, essentially brings together like Game Dev Tycoon, which is a game that I really loved and I spent so much time playing, and then makes it so that instead of just pretending to make games, you can actually make a game. And some of the graphics look really nice. So you can I think you can do some cool things here.
Yeah, totally.
Nick, what is your last? Or not? Sorry, I don't know if it's your last game.
It is my last, and it might
okay.
also be your last.
Shit.
If you only had two.
Yes.
It's the closer.
It's the closer. Yep.
Mafia: The Old Country.
Oh my god.
Again, we can't get super excited yet. It is just
a CG trailer,
title reveal, kind of a trailer. But we do. We're supposed to be seeing more in December, so one can only assume that that's maybe Game Awards. Jeff already has that lined up, maybe. But we were talking about in the reactions that it's being developed by Hangar 13, and they haven't really put anything out significant since Mafia 1 and the ports of 2 and 3. They're quote unquote remasters. So they've been cooking for a little bit, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that we'll see it soon.
That they did have a game that was canceled. So I don't think they were entirely working on just this. Oh, actually, I think
maybe they had like a split team or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine it's a pretty sizable team. But here. So according to this was okay. So this is in 2021. So Take-Two, 2K, cancels a $53 million game from Hangar 13. So
I do vaguely remember that. Yeah,
I also vaguely remember that until and then I looked it up. But yeah, so it was an unannounced game. So we don't know if it was like within the Mafia universe or anything. But so it wasn't like this was all they were working on. But I am curious because I wait, Nick, what's your story with the Mafia games? What's your background?
I've played all of them.
Okay,
I played 2 first, and then I played 3, and then I had played the original version of 1, and then played the remake of 1 when it came out.
I've actually played them in the opposite order. I played Mafia 3 first, and then 2, and then just like 2 months ago, I played Mafia 1. Really, I'm a big fan. I think in the way I've been playing them, they've gotten better, which is not how they're supposed to shape out. But that being said,
3 is it's a weird game because it has the pieces of a good game there, but I feel like the game design specifically really fails that game, where it's it's an open world game that you're doing the same things over and over and over again until you get an interesting mission with cutscenes.
Yes.
And then it's then it's back to another 5 hours of doing repetitive, boring stuff.
You're 100% right. There's some some of the kind of organic gameplay moments that happen in that game are in Mafia 3 specifically. I mean, are so interesting in terms of you'll do something and then you'll turn on the radio and the radio is built up as this central point of news and information for you, and you're kind of driving around town and then I'll be like, oh, this just happened, a shootout just happened here, and I'm like, oh, they're talking about me. So it's interesting like that. And then also on top of that, it has really good performance by Nolan North as a character in the radio, as a radio talk show announcer. And the way that storyline unfolds, I thought is really fucking cool too. So again, it has as Nick had said, really cool moments, but this design is so weird. It almost has the Assassin's Creed 2, you have to build your kind of base type of thing, but it's just not fun. It really slows down the gameplay. Yeah, but I'm excited for the Mafia either way.
So Mafia 1 had it's really weird. OG Mafia 1 probably has the most quote unquote realistic mechanics. Like,
Yeah, sure.
police will come after you for speeding or running red lights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like every game has stripped back those mechanics more. So like Mafia 2, like they won't chase after you for running red lights, but you can still be, trigger a police
Speeding.
pursuit with speeding.
Yeah.
Then Mafia 3, like all of that is out.
You
So
can
like you can
fucking
speed,
do
you can run through
whatever
red
the
lights.
fuck you want.
Like as long as you're not actively causing harm to people in the world, like
Yeah.
you'll be fine. And then Mafia 1 remake, it's like I don't believe they come after you for speeding or anything like that. I could be wrong on that, but
I beat the whole game in one day, so I like played by the rules. I didn't actually test to see, so I'm not sure. But they do warn you, because there is a button you press to get the speed limiter so that you don't ever speed, and so I just kind of had that thing mostly running all the time.
So that's something that like Mafia has kind of always been praised for over something like Grand Theft Auto, where like there was a little bit more groundedness to how stuff like driving happens. And to bring it to the actual game we're talking about, Mafia the Old Country, this is going to be like, it's a really interesting setting. So it's 1900 Sicily at like the formation of the mob, more or less.
Yeah.
And I think that that'll be like a really interesting time period and location to like kind of explore that sort of story with. So that gets me really excited. It'll be interesting to see how the mechanics work, because obviously 1900s, I mean, there are cars. They would still be like, they'd be even earlier than Mafia 1, which had like early eras of automobiles and stuff, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays into it. But then also in the little brief developer, sentences that happened after the trailer, they were highlighting, Mafia's like kind of linear origins and like, attention to details and stuff. So I'm just kind of curious what will be, what the plan is, I guess, for like some of that sort of stuff.
I'm hoping for a game like Mafia 1 with the definitive edition of Mafia 1 level of fidelity, because that game looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's gonna be a looker for sure.
Yeah, and I
think
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, my note is just about playing the Mafia games backwards. I've realized it almost gives you sort of a weird, it essentially feels like a series of spin-offs when you do it that way, and I'm realizing this now because a character in Mafia 3 is the main character in Mafia 2, and then at the end of Mafia 1 the characters from Mafia 2 show up, so you're like, oh, it's like that. So it's like it recontextualizes it in an interesting way. But all right, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say, recently I was going back, unrelated to this because this was before we watched Opening Night Live, but I was just rewatching like clips from Scorsese gangster movies and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And just seeing this, I was like, I think I'm in the mood for Mafia again. That'll be a really fun one to hop back into. So I hope it's on the horizon. We won't know for certain, but
hopefully a release date soon. Yeah. Either way, they have been working. Even if that game was canceled in 2021, that still means they've been working a good few years on this one. So
yeah, I think this was also, just to throw one extra thing in there, I think this was a cool game to end the show on.
Yeah.
While the trailer might not be, what we want out of like, a big final one more thing, I think it was an interesting kind of like a Sniper Elite that I talked about. It's like, I wasn't thinking we would be getting another Mafia, at least not currently.
See, here's the thing. I actually, at the start of the showcase, it started with a 2K. And if not for the fact that it looked like it was just space, I was like, oh my God, is this Mafia? And so like in my head, I was like, oh my God, is this Mafia? And then I was like, no, it's space, you dummy. So I didn't say it, but I wish I had, because now it would have set me up brilliantly for the fact that there was a Mafia game. I just had to wait 2 hours.
Yeah, you just had to wait for it.
Yeah. All right, here, I'm just going to run through the last 4 games that I had. Nick, if you had anything to say about them, this is your goddamn chance. You got to speak now or forever hold your peace. Dune. Anything to say about Dune Awakening? You gonna try out?
I liked the movies. It's not one of those franchises that I think I'm like, oh yeah, I'm super
Finally
hyped on.
more Dune.
Yeah, so like the game, it's like I'm watching the gameplay and I'm like, it looks cool, but it also looks like a time sink and not necessarily a time sink that I want to get involved in.
Sure. Pillars of Eternity 2, or as I like to say, Poe 2.
I think you have the wrong game there.
No, not Pillars
Path
of
of
Eternity,
Exile?
Path of Exile. Dude,
Yeah, I was gonna say
you
Pillars of
fucked
Eternity.
me up. You said that shit, and I got me fucked up. Yes, Path of Exile 2, Poe 2.
Again, similar to Dune, cool looking game. But at this point for me, like if I'm gonna play that game, I'm gonna play Diablo because I haven't played any of those games, and I want to see what Path of Exile is like, built off of more or less.
That's fair. Last one is Isla or Ayla, Aila.
This was the one that was like, is VR or maybe VR?
It has the sort of the VR vibes, but the person in the game is playing a VR game, I think, is what the idea is. But it's like a horror game. It's like a horror game where the character is in the game that you're playing as is playing a VR game, I believe, is the story, is the pitch. So, okay, it's described, Ayla is described as a first-person psychological horror game where you play as a game tester for a new state-of-the-art video game AI. Surviving terrifying worlds within worlds as the line between the real and the virtual becomes unclear. Interesting. So you're a game tester. The worst. That's really the nightmare, is the fact that you had to play as a QA tester for a video game.
I'm looking at the trailer again. I think I blocked the entire trailer out of my... Yeah, it looks cool. That premise sounds like one of the ones from the Blumhouse games lineup. I feel like there was something about like a horror game where you're like a tester or something like that too. But this obviously looks, a bit higher budget than that.
Sure.
These games, this might, I don't want this to come off as like rude, right? Obviously, like I'm not in the business of, criticizing things people put hundreds of hours on, like with any sort of nastiness, right? But it's games like this and like a lot of Souls-likes that aren't from Software, where it's like it's clearly going for like, a vibe and like a quality of game that I feel like no third-party studios match ever. Sure. So like I watched like this and it's like I'm getting like vibes of like, Resident Evil and stuff out of this. But like I also feel like there's just no way that this game is going to have the same quality bar as like a Resident Evil.
Yeah. No, and that's the... Yeah. And I think it's an interesting discussion for a later time too, because I think it'd be like with what's happening. This is the last thing I'll say. I think I don't think we have anything else on the docket for the rest of this episode. But it's what's happening with Splitgate right now, where essentially Splitgate 1 came out, and then it's like a huge, and they're like, okay, what if you had you everything you learned from Splitgate, you take and you make it into a better game with a budget. And now that's what they're doing with Splitgate 2, which, is the cool way to do that. I'm not sure. Again, I don't know how often that'll happen in the industry, especially with like a horror game. I don't know if they'll say, actually, no, that's literally what they did with Blumhouse. So I suppose they could, because Blumhouse, I believe their first game, if I remember correctly, their first game was already released. And Blumhouse essentially reached out and was like, hey, like, we saw your game. What if we gave you a budget to like, finish it, polish it, do whatever, like, do all the things you wish you could have done and re-release it. And that's what they're doing now. So they took down the game, they're finished, they polished it up. It was a finished game, but now they can spice it up a little bit and now re-release it. So it'd be cool to see that kind of thing, because yeah, you're right. Some of these games you're not going to be able to hit the bar of, some of these AAA standards.
And like again, I don't want to say like it's bad or anything. It obviously looks like incredible from the gameplay and stuff. It's just like, you know, people weren't sure until they played Lies of P that game was going to be as good as it was. So
or Wukong, or no, Black Myth Wukong. Yeah,
exactly. So it's definitely probably like a wait and see for me on that one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to wait to see the latest episode of Retrograde. It is available now on YouTube, and you can also check it out over on RespawnStation.com. Just to, an easy access, where of course you can check out all of our great articles that we write over there about games we're excited about, games we're playing, games we review. Check out obviously, if you're listening to this is I don't need to tell you, but you gotta make sure you subscribe to Respawn Station Podcast on the podcast platforms of your choice, or YouTube if you just want to, your podcast platform is YouTube. Subscribe on there, leave a rating on whatever platform you use, whether that be a thumbs up or 5 stars. We got Nick lives exclusively off of the hype. He soaks up the attention, so you gotta feed him somehow. We're sure not making money from this, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed. With that said, Nick, do you have anything else to say to the people?
Gamescom was a lot of fun. I realized that I get a little, sometimes people can get a little salty and everything. I feel like I maybe brought some salt this episode that I wasn't expecting, but overall I still had fun, and it was fun reacting.
Yeah, no, it was a good show. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, as always. And until next time, I got to stare at the camera. Have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.